Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish Podcast. On today's episode, we've brought back Brandon Hollern from Church of the Nativity and Rebuilt. Today, Brandon talks all about why the numbers matter. Spoiler alert, it's because the people count. It's because every number that we measure in church world is a soul attached to that number. I can't wait for you to tune in and hear about how Brandon talks about how they use the numbers to help impact discipleship at Church of the Nativity. We'll see you inside the episode. Well, hey there, Brandon. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Melissa. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, this is exciting because not many people get super excited about data, and some people don't like to talk about the numbers, but I love that you get passionate about it because you know what we can do with numbers and what they represent. So I'm excited for this conversation.
I would be willing to bet that most people hate talking about metrics. I'm going against the grain on that one.
And I love it because there are so many stories the numbers can tell. And this is where the numbers can really tell the story of a parish. And today we're going to help people understand how the numbers actually do matter. And that's because of the people that those numbers represent and those souls that they represent.
That's absolutely right. It's all about shepherding people through a discipleship path. That's what that's what the root of why we're tracking what we're tracking at Nativity.
Absolutely. So, Brandon, when did you first realize that metrics aren't just these numbers, but they're a way of seeing and serving people?
Well, to be completely honest, I didn't care about the metrics at all when I first started. I've been on staff since 2014, and for the first couple of years, I thought they were kind of annoying. I thought that it was annoying that we had to do this. I'm like, who is even looking at this data? What's the point? We're just looking at what had already happened. It took until about 2016, so a couple years in, that I really saw the value in tracking metrics and how it could really shape the direction of the church, decisions that we're able to make at the church that could help, put people on a discipleship path and see how we're doing in those specific areas and make sure that what we're communicating to our parish is resonating. And metrics are, the main way that we're able to do that.
Yes. Brandon, something you said got me excited. It's that metrics help you make decisions too, even though they already happened, but they can help you make future decisions. Later this month, we are talking to a pastor that is a partner of ours, and he's going to talk about how he used metrics to help formulate his strategic plan. So the metrics do so much in the background.
I will be tuned in to that podcast episode.
That's a good one. I think you're going to love it. It's Father Joel. It's going to be so good.
Father Joel's great. That's awesome.
So here's, I think, maybe one hesitation, and you can tell me if this is how you felt in 2014, 2015. Some parishes hesitate to track these numbers because it feels too businesslike. And, we're a church. We're supposed to be shepherding people. But can you help our listeners understand that numbers matter precisely because every person in that number matters to God?
Absolutely. Every person in the database is just that. They're a person with a soul. And we like to say the soul count, whenever we're like, how many souls are we talking about in small groups or what have you? Metrics matter because people count. And I know that has been said, 1,000 times before, but it is totally true. You're missing the plot if you don't realize that. Every person in our database has a story. Every person in our database is on a discipleship journey. And we want to help them and meet them where they are and help them grow in their faith. That's what we're called to do. And, metrics are the way that we're able to track to see decisions that we're making at the parish. Are they working? Are they not working? How can we tact and make adjustments? And how can we evaluate how to do better the next time? We're all on a journey. We're all trying to get better.
Yes. Brandon, I love that you said it helps you evaluate if what you're doing is working, because when I was in the parish, that's one of the ways that we used our metrics was to see, okay, we're putting in this effort, we're coaching with Rebuilt, we're getting small groups built, we're redoing next gen programs. How do we know if we're getting better than we were before we started? And the metrics are what told that story. When we started looking at, okay, well, we're up over pre-COVID numbers now with attendance. We're up over pre-COVID numbers with giving. We're now the highest we've been in 10 years for next gen, whatever those numbers were. Those helped us to see and then celebrate too that, this is actually working. It really helped us with that.
That's very well put. And on the flip side of that, though, if you are not doing well in a particular area, don't shy away from that.
Yeah.
There's likely a reason why, and it's likely fixable. I was talking to a pastor, this is several years ago, and we were talking about metrics, and he goes, well, Brandon, I like metrics as long as they're all pointed in the right direction. I'm like, Father, of course everybody loves it when things are going well. But at Nativity, we have had numbers go in the wrong direction. And if we as a leadership team, if we're putting our head in the sand and not paying attention to that, we're missing out on a potential for growth. One quick example is for several years in a row, we focused so much of our efforts on small group, growing small groups. And we won 1,000 new people in small groups as an example in one of our campaigns. And we noticed through the metrics that the people who were regularly serving were lagging and dropping over time. If we weren't tracking on that, we would never really know that, other than anecdotally, the same people are here serving every week. And isn't that amazing? Well, that is amazing. And those people are amazing. But if they're serving every week, that means that there are people who used to be serving that aren't serving anymore. And we're not able to spread around and help have many people grow in their faith through service. So that's just one quick example of how Nativity, the numbers don't always point up all the time.
Right.
That's okay. Don't shy away from it.
Yes. Well, that again helps you look at, okay, as a leadership team, this is now where we need to put our focus and attention. And it gives you really that big goal and focus for the year. And when you did put your focus on that, do you want to share how cool that metric was of how many people you got into serving from that?
Well, the numbers we're still clearing people through our clearance. Really? So it's still, we launched a campaign in the fall to get people into service. And that was exactly why we started that campaign, because of metrics telling us that we had dropped, pretty precipitously in service over the past, since COVID. We weren't where we were back in 2019. And so we wanted to make an effort to get back up there. And, the numbers are still being tabulated, but we're in the hundreds. 400 or so people have taken a step in to start serving again. And that's a huge number for us. That's a huge growth percentage. And we would not have gone through that exercise had it not been for metrics.
And that's where they come in handy. Now, Brandon, if a parish wanted to begin tracking metrics with that mindset that people count, where would you encourage them to start?
Well, I think it is important to have a baseline of metrics. And I would be willing to bet that most, perhaps not all, but most parishes are tracking offertory and attendance. And I know that you're tracking offertory because your diocese likely is asking you to track offertory, and your diocese is also probably asking you to take a snapshot of mass attendance. I would first advise a church to make sure that those are robust. Make sure that your offertory and your attendance metrics are accurate. It's okay. As I mentioned before, pastors like it if the numbers are going in the right direction. It's okay if the numbers are not, at least temporarily, and we can make adjustments to it. But you want to make sure that those metrics are accurate. And then consider going beyond those two. And the two areas that I would advise, if you already have attendance and offertory locked in, is you really want to get a handle on how many people in your parish are in small groups and how many people in your parish are actively serving. And by active, that means it's something different to every parish. At Nativity, we're focused on people who are serving who have served and checked in to serve in the last 8 weeks, just as an example. But that doesn't have to be the way you measure it. That's just how we're looking at it.
Now, Brandon, how do you take attendance? I'm thinking about how Nativity has such a big campus. How do you track all of those people for every single mass?
Well, so it's evolved over time, of course, but I'll back up. When I first started at the parish, we had a book. And the book, it was literally a binder, 3-inch ring binder with a sheet of paper for every week of the year. Okay. And we would have the ushers or host team that they're now called, but ushers would take a mass count and they would mark it on a piece of paper and put it in the offertory. And it would just say, this is the 10 o'clock mass. There were this many people here, and they would just put it in the offertory. And then the money counters would, when they open up the tamper-evident bags that we have on Monday morning, they would pull those out and they would give it to the business manager. The business manager would go and enter it into the book. And of course, we've moved beyond the book. We then migrated to a spreadsheet, which I think a lot of parishes would likely be using. Then we moved into churchmetrics.com, which is a free tool by Glue that allows you to just track your attendance. It lets you track anything, actually, over time. But that's still a manual process. And then we've gotten beyond that. Now we're using a texting system. So the host team lead would text a keyword into our texting system, and it would ask them a few questions that they would just answer and say, what mass is this? What was the count? And then it would send an email. It can also populate a metrics record for us automatically. I haven't turned that feature on because sometimes you might get bad data, or you might get an updated count, and we don't want to mess that up. So there still is some human intervention. That does fall to me. I'll put those metrics in on Monday morning when I come in.
Okay. When leadership is healthy, mission moves forward. When it's unclear or disconnected, everything stalls. That's why we created the Rebuilt Leadership Self-Evaluation, a simple, powerful tool to help your parish pause, reflect, and realign around what matters most. Inside, you'll walk through core questions about your mission, the clarity of your team, and the metrics you use to know whether you're actually accomplishing the work God entrusted to you. You'll name what's working, identify the gaps, and begin shaping practical next steps. Quick wins, long-term priorities, and the big rocks that will strengthen your parish leadership from the inside out. If you're ready for more focus, healthier teams, and leadership rooted in mission, download the Leadership Self-Evaluation today at rebuiltparish.com/leadership evaluation. Okay. But that's great because you actually get to put your hands on those numbers. You can see, and you're the one, because you're human, you're looking at, and you can say, oh, that's a little bit more than last week. Okay. Or, oh, we're a little bit late. What happened last week? Oh, we got a snowstorm. Okay. That makes sense.
That's timely because we had a snowstorm on Saturday night into Sunday, and our mass attendance is way down. And then I can then take our records and I put a note in the record so that a few years from now, whenever we're looking at, multi-year comparisons, we're like, wait, why were we down hundreds of people on Sunday morning? We're like, oh, there was 3 inches of snow, which I know for you in the Northeast, 3 inches is like a big nothing burger. But for us in Baltimore, people get really scared of any trace of snow. And so 3 inches is a big deal for us here. And so people stayed home. And then when you look at our online numbers, for people who watch online, they're way up, right? So people are still engaged with us, but we're able to track that. That's the important part.
And Brandon, I think it's important to mention that you do track those online numbers too. So you can see that impact. Now with your online numbers, are you able to see kind of where people are watching from too?
We are primarily streaming through YouTube. Okay. And YouTube does give you some analytics. We had more insight, to be honest, when we were live streaming on our website. Okay. We were able to see where people were tuning in from. Our live stream provider also has a nice map tool where you can see people are tuning in from. But to be completely honest, we're not tracking on where people are tuning in from as much now. We're more focused on device count and minutes watched. Those are our metrics we're looking at now.
Fair enough. But it's cool that you can track all of that.
We can. Yeah. And then you can see, just like last weekend, you can see that our numbers were much higher in Baltimore and in the Northeast because of the snowstorm that hit us all. Yes.
Which it's so funny. I was looking at Nativity's social media and I saw a beautiful picture of Nativity, snow everywhere, that said, Mass is still happening. If you feel comfortable enough, come and join us. If not, you can live stream.
That's
so
right.
I think that communication is so important too, so that people know, oh yes, don't worry, we're not canceling Mass. Father Michael can still walk here. We can still have Mass.
That's exactly right. And we will have Mass no matter what, for those that can make it. But yeah, we have to say that. Again, in Baltimore, you have to say that because we're getting tons of questions, and yeah, so.
No, makes perfect sense. Now, Brandon, you mentioned that you track small groups. So what do these numbers tell us about connection, community, and the discipleship in the parish?
Sure. So small groups are huge for us. And we're a pretty large church. So small groups are really that they accomplish so much for us. And I know this isn't a small group podcast. I would refer you to the small group team on that. But from a church-wide metrics standpoint, we're looking at total number of small groups, total number of people engaged in those small groups. And then this is big, and many places don't do this, but routinely updating your roles so that you can see who is still in a small group. So we do check in with our group leaders a couple times a year to say, here's who we believe is still in your small group. Are they still with you or are they not? So we can update our records. And that's really helpful. Once you get really good data, then you can start seeing, or we can start seeing, how people are engaged on that discipleship journey. That each person is unique in their journey, but we can see how effective are we at moving the needle in discipleship from a quantitative, quantitatively. So we are measuring that number over time, and we're measuring the length of time that people are in a small group, in a given small group. And then we can overlay that with serving records and giving records and other church engagement records. So we can just see how well are we doing as a church at engaging the body. So that's how we're doing it.
Well, Brendan, one of the things that I think is cool that you do is you're tracking to see, okay, we have a whole group of, this is who we think is in your group. Is this accurate? And someone can say, oh, actually, Jess is no longer in our small group. Oh, okay. Is everything okay? Oh, she actually moved away. Okay, that's fine. That's not something to worry about. But if you say, oh no, Jenny is no longer in our small group. We really don't know what happened. We've been trying to reach out to her. We haven't heard. That's a way that the parish can then have somebody reach out to pastorally care for that person too.
Exactly. And we do have some examples of that. We also, in our system that we have set up, we are really pushing the prayer wall. So small group members of your small group or your small group leader could submit a prayer request on your behalf. And that, as the at the parish level, that gives us a great opportunity for member care. And if there's a prayer request that we just need to pray for somebody, that's fun. But we have a human looking at each one of those and evaluating, is this something that they may need some additional or ongoing care from the parish? And that's how we're able to really care for our members. Our small groups are our pastoral care delivery system in a lot of ways, but in some instances, the parish needs to step in and do even more for an individual.
And Brandon, that is such a great example of why these numbers matter, because each one of those is a soul that might need help.
Exactly. Well said.
It's so good. Now, you also mentioned that you track your volunteer ministers, and we know that they are the heartbeat of parish life. Without them, we would not get much done at all. You mentioned that you measure by checking in like every 8 weeks, as long as they're serving at least once every 8 weeks. So what does that show you about how people are engaging and using their gifts?
Sure. Yeah. So what I would say first, the way we're tracking on that is we have a robust check-in system that's integrated in with our church management system. And, a volunteer, in order to serve, they need to have a name tag with their name on it, printed off from our printer. And they can't get that unless they're cleared to serve and have the proper clearances. And so we're asking everybody to check in. But then on the back end, we can see, okay, this person's on the host team and they're serving, once a month typically. And if they were to go 2 months without serving, they fall onto a list where our host team lead would reach out to them, or a staff member would reach out to them and just see if they're okay, and see if they are struggling in any way, we can be helping them. Or perhaps what happens in a lot of cases is they're in a busy season of life and they need to take a break, or perhaps the host team's not for them. I keep picking on the host team, but it could be any team.
They're the first ones you see.
They could, right, exactly. So maybe a different ministry would be better for you. So it really gives us an opportunity. But back to your question of, being the hands and feet, we really want to serve our ministers. They are the front lines for us, and they are the main reason our church is so successful, the welcoming atmosphere that they produce for us. So they're people and they need cared for. And so they're on our team. So it's really helpful. These metrics, again, are helping us to extend pastoral care when needed, even to our team, even to our volunteer team.
So good. And I can't even imagine trying to do, well, I can. I remember what it was like trying to get things done in a parish and not having a strong volunteer minister team. But boy, once you get that and you can track how they're all doing and where you even might need some more so you can do a minister push, it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, I was just on a conference call earlier today, and we're preparing for Christmas Eve. And we have our operations director, Tracy, she's holding an all-hands meeting with our ministry lead teams, the leaders of teams. So we have volunteers leading volunteers. And so Christmas Eve being just an example, but it's just a huge operation with hundreds of people and tons of moving parts and just getting everybody on the same page. So it's, it's been great for us. Our ministers are really the lifeblood of this parish, and we're so grateful for the service that they're providing.
Oh, they're incredible. And anybody who had the opportunity to come to the Rebuilt conference this summer, they got the opportunity to witness how amazing the Nativity ministers are firsthand.
Absolutely, they're incredible.
Now let's talk about something people sometimes really don't want to talk about, and that's money. So we know that offertory is sometimes misunderstood as just a financial number, but how can you frame that, especially when we talk about trends like online giving versus cash and envelopes? And how can we look at that as a reflection of trust and commitment and spiritual growth for your parishioners?
That's a great question. We just came out of stewardship season. We always do a stewardship Sunday or stewardship weekend, the weekend before Thanksgiving. And so my team is processing all of these stewardship commitments for 2026. And it's really inspiring to see people growing in their faith through their growing in giving. And we are looking, yes, at the overall number to the parish, but we're going beyond that. We're looking at the average gift per family, medium gift per family, but then we're looking at how that number is changing over time and how it's changing for individuals or people in different groups. What we've really found is that small groups and serving are the way to healthy parish finances. It's really amazing. And of course, everybody knows that at least on some level, or I think most people know that on some level, but to actually see it bear out in the data has been really encouraging. And so we have found, at least in our parish, in our setting, that if you're in a small group, you're giving at a rate 2.5 times that of somebody who's not in a small group. And if you're serving, you're giving at 3.1 or 3.2x of somebody who's not. And if you're giving and serving and on mission, you're closer to 4x. So it's really, our members who are engaging in the life of the parish, engaging in serving, engaging in groups, and especially engaging on missions and outreach, they are growing in their faith, and you can see it bear out in their giving.
Brandon, I don't think you could say that enough. I think we could get in front of people and tell them this every single week, and it wouldn't be enough. That when you get people engaged in a small group, when you get them serving in their parish and serving in missions, basically when you get them anywhere else on the discipleship path, that they're going to give more and over 2 times more than everybody else. And
the crazy part, that at least for me, is that some of our major givers are not in groups, so they're skewing the non-small group number higher. Right? So it's just showing, it's, again, most people would know that, at least, intellectually, but to actually see it proven out in your own parish has been really inspiring and really, it's encouraging for us. And so stewardship for us, it is a celebration of everything God's doing in this parish, and it's celebrating our members, our member ministers, and people in small groups that are, giving their life to God and trusting God in their finances.
Hi, I'm Maria Politano from Rebuilt Parish. If you're longing to see real renewal in your parish, but you're not sure where to begin. You don't have to walk that path alone. Through Rebuilt Coaching, your parish is paired with 2 dedicated partner coaches who walk alongside you, encourage you, and help you to stay focused on what matters most, making disciples and strengthening your parish culture. We guide you through the Rebuilt anchors with a clear course and coaching rhythm that gives you structure, support, and practical steps you can take right away. If you're ready for clarity, direction, and a team committed to your parish's growth, learn more about Rebuilt Coaching at rebuiltparish.com/coaching.
I think that's so good. And I think it's important for our parish leaders that are out there to remember that you're not asking too much of these people if you're not asking them, like if you're not asking them to give, if you're not asking them to serve or join a small group, you're taking away blessings that they would otherwise have given the opportunity to say yes. So the fact that you're sharing some of these metrics that people who are serving and in a small group and serving in missions are 4 times more, like giving 4 times as much as everybody else, you're not asking too much of any of these people.
I would say one caveat to that is, and Father Michael and Tom have been very, very consistent in this, is that we do not nag. We do not have multiple asks a year, other than the case of a capital campaign. We'll just sit that out to the side. But generally, in a typical parish year, you are hearing about giving to your place of worship as an act of worship 1 time a year, and it's going to happen in November. And consistency over time has worked for us, but we definitely don't do fundraisers, and we're not raising money for lots of other causes very intentionally, so that we're telling people, given your place of worship as an act of worship and progress in your giving over time. It's been a very powerful process for our parish, and
it's working. And I think something to be said, not that this is a stewardship conversation at all, but
certainly not.
The fact that you're doing this, and that when you do a capital campaign, that people are reaching further into their accounts as an act of worship to help support that capital campaign because of that trust that they've built over time and because their faith has grown as a Nativity parishioner.
Absolutely.
Now, Brandon, you've got some pretty great routines when it comes to gathering this data and analyzing it. So what does your rhythm look like about, talking about these metrics as a staff once you've gathered them all?
Sure. I would say week in and week out, this is not something that I spend a tremendous amount of time on. We've set up some really great processes where our system is, especially as far as giving and small groups and serving metrics, they're collected and aggregated automatically through our system. The only manual entry that I do is as we mentioned, the in-person attendance and then online attendance or online device count. It's maybe 5 to 6 minutes of work on a Monday morning. And then we've built some dashboards that we're able to share with our staff, and they show on the televisions in the offices throughout the week, so that we can see where we're progressing in discipleship in each of these 4 areas that we've identified in giving, groups, serving, and missions. And you can see how those are moving over time. And that's really, I like to think of those dashboards that we've created as highlighting the fact that it's all of our jobs as staff members to be leading people in steps of discipleship. I have nothing to do with the small group team, or very little to do with the small group team, but it's not the small groups team to get people into small groups. It's my job too. It's all of our job to get, when we're pushing, we have a major push into small groups or major push into serving there. And in the same way, the inverse is true, where our small group team and our service team, whenever it's stewardship season, they're all in on getting people to fill out stewardship cards, right? So we're all in this together as a team. So, and those metrics that we're able to share with the staff really help, I believe, our staff to all be on the same page of what we're really trying to do. We're trying to grow disciples of Jesus Christ and have people progress in their faith. So that's what we're here to do.
That's one of my favorite things about being in the offices when I come into Nativity, is that I get to see those screens with those dashboards. My first thought is, man, I wish I had this at my parish when I was working there, because this is awesome. But it really shows that that's the focus. That is what you are working on. Your number one is helping people grow as disciples. It's part of your mission. So I think that it's so important that those screens are there so that every staff member that walks by, no matter who you are, no matter what your role is, no matter what your title says on the website, your number one focus is making disciples. And these are the ways that we measure that. And I think that just helps your whole team make all of this happen.
Absolutely. And to be clear, we're not suggesting that those are the only 4 metrics on how people grow their faith. That's just what we're able to reliably capture quantitatively. We can't measure someone's heart. We're not purporting that we are doing that. But we are able to see directionally, are we moving directionally in the right way? So that's what those dashboards help us do.
Now, Brandon, for the parish leaders out there who maybe they haven't been tracking attendance consistently, or maybe they only track giving when the diocese asks for it, but they really want to build this culture around metrics, what practical steps can help them embrace this idea that tracking numbers is really about shepherding people well?
Yeah, great question. I mean, if a parish is only measuring what the diocese is asking them to measure, I would encourage them to get started measuring weekly. Measure your attendance weekly. Remember the book. If nothing else, get a book and start writing it in, or a spreadsheet. I would recommend a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are pretty easy. And if you want to go like one step beyond that and memorialize it somewhere a little more robust, I would recommend churchmetrics.com. It's free to use for churches. And you can measure attendance, you can measure online numbers, you can measure anything you want, but it is a manual process. I would set up a system wherein perhaps the business manager is in charge of it, but maybe you could delegate that to a volunteer team. It could be a member of your money counter team. If you're doing, as we mentioned, the money count team was relaying information to the business manager, you could have a volunteer start to measure that. So just get started. And I would say if you have a robust system with that, consider adding some of these these other discipleship metrics, serving and groups, of course. But if you have a prayer wall, you could measure prayer requests on your prayer wall. If you are in sacraments season, I mean, I know we're doing sacraments year round, but let's just say you're measuring how many people received First Communion or First Reconciliation. If you're able to capture that, those are helpful too. We even go one step further and we're measuring kind of people who are on the periphery who might not be engaged in a discipleship step, but are attending events or checking kids into kids programs. There's a lot of opportunity to find ways to see how a family or how an individual is engaging with the parish. And that will, over time, it won't happen overnight, but over time it'll conjure up ideas on how to move the needle. Your team will be able to come up with ideas. And where there's a ton of examples that we've had at Nativity where those dashboards and just that mindset shift of we're in this to make disciples and it's everybody's job to make disciples has really garnered a lot of great ideas that have helped move the needle for us.
Well, Brandon, I love that you said just start tracking weekly, because that consistency is important. And another thing you said that we have to drive home is it's that consistency over time. None of this is going to change overnight. It takes time to do all of it.
Exactly. Well said.
My goodness. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing just in your zone of genius, so that way people can learn from you and that they can work on making disciples in their own parishes by focusing and tracking these metrics.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to pour what's in our cup into yours. We didn't come up with this. There's lots of great churches that we've learned from over time, and that's how we've implemented it, what we're doing here. And I'm hopeful that this content has been helpful to our audience.
It definitely has been. Well, Brandon, I'm excited. I'm sure we're going to have you back on again. We can't go even a whole year without having you. So thank you for being here with us. And to all of our listeners, thank you. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks.